Hello, so what we've got here is a 1975 450 SLC, and I had a leak from the valve cover gasket, so I thought while I was replacing that I'd go check the valves. So before just diving in, I went on the internet and tried to do some research, and it appears there's lots of different ways to do this, but this is what worked well for me today. So one of the first things I did was label all the plug wires before I took them off, and that way you're not going to have any confusion later on. Then remove the air cleaner box so you can get access to the valve covers, and then I put a cover, it's a little magnetic cover from O'Reilly's or something like that, just to prevent anything from falling down there. Then the valve covers came off, and over here you'll see I removed the coil wire, and I did this because later on we're going to turn the motor over to do the valves just by bumping the starter just a little bit. It saves taking all this stuff off down here. Okay, so we got the coil wire off. That's very important. You don't want this puppy starting up on you. Then the next thing is buy or borrow this little guy right here, this hazard tool, and while you're at it, get yourself a nice long extension. This is a 2-foot extension. Seems like an overkill, but it isn't. You'll need it. It takes a lot of effort to move those nuts to adjust the valves. Okay, the specs. I had lots of different specs that I pulled up, but a 0.1 millimeter cold intake comes out to 4 thousandths, and a 0.2 cold exhaust comes out to 8. So that's what I did mine at today. You may find you want to dial in that exhaust a little tighter to maybe 6 thou, but that's up to you. Okay, so one of the things that we do before we start, I made a chart here: inlet, exhaust, exhaust, inlet for every cylinder, and then when you've done that exhaust or that inlet, mark the checkbox, because later on it can get confusing. Okay, to reduce the gap size, so let's say instead of having an 8 thousandths, you've got a 10 thousandths, turn the nut counterclockwise, and if you need to increase the gap size, so you just can't quite get the feeler in there, turn the nut clockwise. So here's what we're going to do. Here's the bank. This is 1 through 4 cylinders, and I'm going to have Cindy hold the camera here, and I'm going to show you just a little bump on the starter, enough to get the cam lobe pointing skyward, or ideally perpendicular to the plane of the head. So Cindy's going to hold the camera, and I'm going to give her a little bump. See if you can zoom in on the cam lobes there. Here we go. I'm going to do it again. And that's as little as those cams move just by bumping the starter. And if you'll notice, there's no oil gushed out, no oil got splattered everywhere, and that's because why? Because the coil wire is off. So anyway, that's my next step now, is to put on the valve cover gaskets and take it for a spin. But that's what I wanted to share, because it made my life a whole lot easier by bumping the motor over to move the cam lobes, so you're like this one, perfect, totally perpendicular to the plane of the head. Okay, that's all I've got. Bye.